Hello, everyone out there in TV land or YouTube land or Facebook land or wherever you're watching us. Welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news with conservative views. I will be your host today. My name is Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast, but I do not do this program all by my lonesome.
That's right, coming to you from the East Coast. I am your co-host for the day, Mike P. Waworski. Welcome to The Rundown. But Craig, not just any edition of The Rundown, it's a special edition of The Rundown.
Well, it's special for two reasons. The first is, we're going to do basically, we're going to call this, it's going to be basically COVID-19 fact check day. We're going to be talking all about the COVID and all about the lies that are being told and covered up and all of that fun stuff. But that's not the only reason why it's special.
That's right. There's another reason.
Yeah, it's that special day. Now, you guys are normally used to us playing this video and enjoying it, yada, yada, yada. But you might have noticed last week, if you're watching us on Facebook, that there was no sound during this portion of the program.
Yeah, I got something for you, Facebook. Right there.
Right there, yeah, exactly. Facebook censorship. Yep. Anyway, so here's what we're going to do. So we're going to play the video. And we're going to play it twice because, we're going to provide the sound for you. And first I'm going to do it, and then Mike is going to do it because I refuse to allow Mike to exercise his white privilege by going first. So we're going to do this, and we're going to see who can produce the best recreation of this particular video, and then we're going to have you guys vote on it. Okay, so Mike, what day is it?
It's hump day.
Guess what day it is? Great. Guess what day it is? Come on now. I know you. Come on, girl. Come on. I know you hear me. Hey, Mike. Guess what day it is? Julie, guess what day it is? It's hump day. Woo woo. Yeah, Mike, you know what? I really love Wednesdays because it's hump day. Woo woo. Oh yeah. I think that one. I think that one, my friend, is going to be very, very hard to beat.
That was pretty good, but I think I know.
You are now, Mike, going to get a chance to beat it. Are you ready? All right, Mike. Mike, what day is it? Hump day.
Guess what day it is? Woo woo. Hey, Julie, guess what day it is? Come on, Julie. I know you can hear me. Guess what day it is? Mike. Guess what day it is? Come on, Leslie. Guess what day it is? It's hump day. Woot woot. Changing the Geico is more happy than a camel on hump day. Hump day.
All right. Unfortunately, I think even I am going to have to vote for Mike.
It was all right. You do okay?
You did an excellent job, Mike. Thank you so very much. But see now, when we deduct points, because I do get affirmative action points, and then there's the whole, white fragility thing. I think that eventually I'm going to get more points than you, Mike.
But I get veterans preference points, so that should make us legal again, or even again.
Yeah. At one point, that may have happened. On this show, okay, we'll give you veterans points. But in the real world, not so much.
It works at the post office.
Folks, you see, we're having a good time. We always have a good time here on The Rundown. So I hope you guys, if this is your first time watching, I hope it is not your last time watching. Well, unless we offended you. If you have been offended by what we have just done, then you're not our audience anyway.
Yeah, then we succeeded.
We have succeeded. Bye-bye. So, hey, look, like I said before, we're going to talk today about COVID lies. Now, why are we talking about this? And that kind of leads into our our very first story of the day. And that has to do with Facebook. Now, Project Veritas, you guys are probably, if you don't know who they are, you need to look them up. Look them up on YouTube. They're the ones that have done all sorts of videos exposing the left, exposing big tech, exposing big pharma, exposing big media, and all of the stuff that they're doing. And they've been sued, and then they've turned around and countersued them, and they've pretty much won just about every lawsuit that they've done. But here's the thing. So they actually got some Facebook whistleblowers to provide information showing that they have actually been censoring. Now, we all know they do this, right? They say they don't, and the left says they don't. They all deny it. But we all know that big tech, especially Facebook, has been censoring people who have been skeptical about the information coming out of the government relating to COVID-19 and the vaccines. I mean, this is outrageous, isn't it, Mike?
But like you said, not unexpected at all. And anytime you interview the Zuckerbot, he gets on there and says it's an algorithm. It's an algorithm, and he does his little robot thing, and he gets up there and says it's not his fault. It's not his fault. He's the owner of the company, CEO of the company, creator of the company, whatever he wants to be, but it's not his fault. That only conservative views are the ones being suppressed.
Well, now, to a certain degree, he's right, because if you read the articles, it is an algorithm. But here's the thing, man. Algorithms are created by people, right, and you can control the variables within those algorithms. And what's happening is you've got programmers, senior level programmers, department heads there at Facebook as a part of their policies that are instituting these algorithms.
Yep, and guess which side of the fence they sit on?
Right.
These are not the hopes of conservatism up there sitting there making the rules. This is the clear liberal left, taking the right and squishing us, taking our opinions and getting rid of them, including all of the recent views about COVID and COVID vaccines and COVID vaccine side effects. Anything to do with COVID from the right is clearly being suppressed there on Facebook.
Well, exactly. You know what's funny? And like I said, first of all, we all know that it's not just COVID-19 that's being censored. All right. We know that conservative stuff, anything having to relate. I mean, we've already seen from Project Veritas stuff that's come out about the algorithms that suppress anything that has to do with liberty, anything that has to do with conservatism, anything that has to do with take our country back. Any of that stuff is all suppressed and censored through Facebook. But now we also know the gun stuff is also suppressed and censored. Mike, I told you when we were doing Coffee with Craig, our live feed was doing phenomenal. All of a sudden, it just flattened out, and our numbers actually went down, and we found out that they were actually throttling the program. And in the code for the live feed, it actually said explicit, which meant that it wasn't just going to show up on people's feeds who actually followed us.
Yeah, we've seen that over and over again. Imagine that, Craig. Just because I choose to talk about the exercise of a constitutional right, now it's explicit. I mean, Can I talk about the other constitutional rights? Would that be all right as well, or would they be explicit? I don't think so. It's clear what side this comes from, what the agenda is. Again, Project Veritas pulled the memos out. This wasn't even just I heard from so and so up at Facebook World Headquarters. This was. Here's the actual memorandum telling us to do it.
Memos from Facebook. Now, one of the first items that they were suppressing had to do with the origin of they call it COVID-19. I call it the Chinese Wuhan Kung Fu Bat Flu. And they don't want you to know where it came from. And what was interesting is in the very beginning, the Chinese came out and they said, well, no, it was actually, it came from bats in a wet market where people are going and getting food. And the thing is as far back as I think it was, people were saying that, no, that was a bunch of hooey. And when Donald Trump came out and when other Republicans came out and said, no, this clearly came from a lab. And if, as we're putting together the information, what made it very clear was just how much China would not let us get involved, not let us in there, into the country, not into their lab to find out, to compare and look and investigate. They wouldn't let anyone come in. They conspired with the World Health Organization to lie to the entire world about the foundation or where it came from. So now you're starting to see that in mainstream media, all of a sudden the fact that it came from a lab starting to be like a new revelation, like, oh, they were covering this up. Well, who was the ones really doing the cover up, Mike?
Well, listen, that's the big question, right? Who's the ones that puts the propaganda out? Is it the government wagging the tail or wagging the dog, or is it the media? It's either one. We know from way back when, Craig, I recall this, that the China virus, came from the lab, and that early researchers, when they were trying to find vaccination efforts, said that this is not natural. They had it under the scope, and they said this is not naturally occurring. This is a Wuhan laboratory, virus, and again, we said it all along, Craig, that this virus was a way to topple a presidency. At the end of the State of the Union in 2020, President Trump was riding high as any president ever had in a very long time, and this was a way to control him, take him down, and force people to sit behind these computers and sit behind Facebook-controlled media.
Right.
And
well, I will tell you that I don't necessarily know that I fully buy into that conspiracy theory that it was created that way, but I definitely believe that they took advantage of it that way. I believe that it was probably wasn't meant to get out, but they figured, you know what, never let a good tragedy go to waste. The fact that they didn't allow people to travel anywhere in China from Wuhan, but they allowed people from Wuhan to fly every place else in the world, just goes to show you that there was definitely a cover-up. The fact that they wouldn't let people into Wuhan to investigate from outside China definitely reeks of a cover-up.
Yeah, listen, absolutely, Craig. I want to be clear on that. So thank you for making sure I'm clear on that. I don't believe this was created for that purpose. I believe this was, let's latch onto it and do this. Listen, we'd had the bird flu, we've had SARS, we've even had Ebola come into this country, and you know what they did about it? Nothing. We all went to work. It's all good. Right. We're Americans.
Right.
But they had this opportunity to latch onto this and go, boom, we can show this president is weak and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, and the very fact that they refuse to follow the science, I will say this, and I know we dealt with this here in California, where supposedly they were doing all of this contact tracing and everything, and really it was about June of 2020 where I'm like, look, we now have months of data where we should know who's getting it, how they're getting it, who's the most vulnerable. We should know what effective treatments there are. All of this stuff we should know. And yet, when asked, whether the state or the federal government was asked about data, you couldn't get it. In particular, the state of California, I mean, there was nothing. They were giving you these recommendations to lock down. And, I'll give Florida and several other states some credit. They're like, look, if you can't provide us with data that shows that we should be shut down, we're going to open back up or stay open.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like this. You can't destroy an economy, which is what we've done here in the state of California, without good evidence to support as to why, except in their eyes, unless you're going to institute fear.
Listen, again, Craig, the economy was an all-time high. Jobless rates were at an all-time low. We were on top. By putting this into effect, they could control those numbers. It was okay to destroy an economy because that's the Hail Mary our guy's going to come in and use to be the savior.
Exactly. And, folks, here's the thing. And this kind of leads us to our next story. So, to me, one of the worst figures in this entire thing has been Dr. Fauci, because he has been on one side of mask, on the other side of mask, and then back on the other side of mask. He's demonstrated more than once that he just flat out said, yeah, no, I said something because I wanted people to do this. Let me clarify. I lied to the people. I lied in front of the press, in front of the cameras, because I wanted people to do this. I lied about masks initially not being any good because, I didn't want people to go out and get these masks that medical providers needed. And then he turned around and said he lied about masking, continuing to wear a mask. Well, because and I'm like, wait, which is it? I mean, you said you lied here, because I personally still believe, because once again, I look at the data and I look at the science, and it says that masks, they maybe help protect others, but it doesn't help you protect yourself. And also know that when I follow the science, that if you've been vaccinated, you don't need to be wearing a mask. It doesn't do any good because you're not going to transmit it and you're not going to get it, right? Well, guess what? One of the reasons why I'm so skeptical about Fauci is it says, there's a meme that was out that basically showed that Dr. Fauci actually warned the Trump White House way back in 2017, by the way, before he was even president, about a coming pandemic. Well, Mike, okay, so there's a couple of things that are interesting about this. The first is that every president has had to face some sort of a pandemic during their presidency in the last 20 years. So number one, we know that to be the case. But number two, and this was what was really interesting to me, as it turns out, he's the one that made the decision to fund for taxpayers, us, to give money to the Wuhan lab, where we now know that the pandemic actually came from. Now, I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Yeah, did you see the tete-a-tete between Rand Paul and Dr. Fakey about 2-3 weeks ago, and it was just on that topic as well with with Dr. Fakey just going back and forth saying it's not it, and I guess he forgot that Rand Paul is a board certified surgeon,
Oops.
an actual real doctor,
And by the way, a very smart guy.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, listen, Dr. Fakey, listen, I'm not sure whether he was lying or not. I think he may have said what he meant to say, and then the party got a hold of him and said, "That's not our message, bro. You got to walk that back." So he did. I mean, either way, this guy is a puppet, and he'll lie or he could be manipulated, and he's the absolute worst thing that could have happened to this country, but it's the best thing that could have happened to his party, I guess.
Well, but the thing is so many decisions were made by the government, by the federal government. Well, actually, I take that back, because in many cases, the federal government actually let locals make the decision, let the state make the decision. And it's funny because you had them all talking about, well, we want leadership, we want leadership. Here's what would have happened if Trump had said we're all going to do A, they would have all done Z. Yeah. Because whatever Trump said, the many of the states did the exact opposite. Hydroxychloroquine, permanent shutdown. He never was for permanent shutdowns. He was for, okay, let's shut down temporarily. Let's find out what's going on, and then let's get open back up. He wasn't for full shutdowns or any of that stuff. But it's had such a drastic impact on everything that we've done. And then you have policymakers, authoritarian dictators like, Gavin Mussolini, who utilize this as a way in which, or Gretchen, whatever her name is from Michigan, who used it as a way in which to seize power over people.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. And that's why one of the reasons the president did what he did. Now, listen, he's a strict constitutionalist. He's a very good conservative man. He said, listen, we're going to take a national emergency. We're going to take a 2-week pause, and we'll reset, and we'll make sure everybody's taken care of. But we're going to leave this up to states' rights to figure out what they want to do, to the governors. And like down to a T, if I had an R next to their name, we got them back to work and back outside as quick as we could. And the Democrats are still fighting to today to keep that control. Right here, Craig, I'm living in one of them cities, one of them counties where our guy is doing the whole, well, I know I said when it got to 70% vaccination, but, somebody coughed in a restaurant the other day, so we still all have to wear this. And it's absolutely crazy. And luckily we've got, Governor, Captain Florida down here. He's taking care of us.
Well, and the thing is I think the guy there in Orlando is probably doing even worse, because in some cases they've got the full vaccination, but because there isn't vaccine equity. Right.
Yeah.
Because not enough people out there are all vaccinated, because
right.
not enough people who fit certain characteristics or certain groups, which is interesting because you do have a lot of vaccine hesitancy amongst people of color. Well, how can you complain about vaccine equity when a certain percentage of people have decided, I'm just not going to get the vaccine?
Yeah, and listen, I get it, and it backfired, spectacularly on him. What was it in Howard University recruited Hank Aaron to sit with them and get the vaccine, and Hank was 80, I think it was 81 years old, and he was at the picture of health, got the vaccine, and 10 days later he's dead. But nobody will tell you that why he died. They just said he died from being 80 years old. Okay. Picture of health, then died. Yeah, nothing happened. And I know that's one of the reasons a lot of the black community, especially in the Atlanta area, won't get it, because the vaccine killed Hank Aaron.
Well, let's just put it this way. And this is what I always tell people. I'm like, first of all, if we were actually doing this following the science, then here's what we would know. We would know that well over 87% of those who pass away are over the age of 60. And those who are under the age of 60, another 80 to 90% of them had pre-existing conditions, including obesity and autoimmune deficiencies. And that if you are under the age of 40, you have like a 0.002 chance of dying or having serious repercussions from COVID-19. And for the vaccine, it's quite frankly even lower. But no one wants to talk about, no one wants to follow the science. And by the way, the only science that they're really interested in is political science, right? You said that yesterday.
Yep. Yep.
But here's a little piece of political science that I also believe is going to come back to bite them in the butt, and that is going to be the far-reaching effects that shutting down our schools have had. Now, I'm a school board member, and I will tell you, I've seen the issues. I can tell you right now, we are doing, and most school districts are doing the best that they can to try and stem the academic loss that is taking place with students. But I got to tell you, nothing takes the place of in-person learning. Nothing can for most students. Most students need that in-person learning. And we're finding that because literally students have lost up to 2 years of academics. And when I say lost 2 years, I know it hasn't been 2 years, but consider they didn't finish the end of the 2020, 2021, the 2019, 2020 school year.
Right. There you go.
Most of them, a lot of students didn't get any, have had almost no in-person learning in 2020, 2021. But a lot of what students are having to do is they didn't just not learn anything during those times. In many cases, many of those students lost learning. They went backwards. And in the end, it's going to impact their ability to be able to get the level of education they're going to need in order to be economically successful.
Yeah, and this is what we saw, Craig. Listen, we got back to the 2020/2021 school year that's just finishing up now. It was optional, remember, to go to school or to do Zoom school. And now you have teachers that are trying to do both. You have students that are getting probably about half of what they should be getting because you have a teacher dividing their time between, two separate audiences, and the way things are graded, the way things are collected, everything was different. So you've lost that. You've lost that personal interaction with the students that are home. And listen, I get there's plenty of homeschoolers out there and they all turn out wonderful, but this was en masse. This was not the same direct care. This was not a parent or a homeschool teacher, continuing the education with their children. This was much different. My big concern, Craig, is now you've taken a whole body of people out of contact with other individuals for 8-10 months, the length of the school year. Now we're going to throw them all back in together. Listen, I'm not even worried about the Wuhan virus. I'm worried about the regular common cold. They've been sitting at home in a shell, in a box, in a bubble for 8 months. They're going to be susceptible to everything that comes along. The first time somebody sneezes, these kids are going to get it. All of their naturally occurring immunities have been weakened by staying at home inside their house for 8-10 months.
Well, we know that because we've actually seen that a lot of those communicable diseases that normally passes around in the schools, all those numbers are down. Yep. And now that they're going to be back in school, we're going to see those numbers start to go back up, and a lot of them are probably going to be mistaken for COVID. But the other thing is not just that, the mental health issue.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've taken kids, and some of them at the very beginning of their academic career, and you've totally isolated them. And so there's going to be a whole level of socialization. Like I said, we're dealing with a part of what we're doing is we're actually looking at how are we going to help kids deal with the mental impact of that level of isolation that has taken place and help them to re-socialize so that they can get back to being kids in a social environment.
Yeah.
But not only that, because they were at home, think about the level of productivity, because guess what? Parents had to be there. Parents had to be there educating their kids, which means they weren't in the workplace working. So not only do you have the future, but you have the present economic impact. Dude, we have shortages in so many different things, whether it's beef, whether it's chicken. We have shortages in microchips. I mean, bunch of stuff where people need to be out there working. And just to go back to one point you made about, I believe that at home learning can work if that's what the student, the parents, and the educational institution want to happen, agree that that's a good option for them, and actually have put everything in place in order to make that effective. But in these cases, people were just thrown into it. And you had teachers that didn't want to do it. You had parents that didn't want to do it. And most of all, you had students who didn't want to do it.
Right.
That was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right, Craig. But I think we're gonna suffer for it from years. We're gonna suffer for it from years. And
exactly. And like I said, at least once again, you folks there in Florida, you guys were open most of the time. In other states, you were open most of the time. In California, we literally just opened our schools part-time a couple of months ago. And they won't be open full-time until the fall. And I just love in California there, you got the governor bragging about, oh, we're reopening. Yeah, we're the last frigging state to reopen.
And he's only reopening because the courts have told him to.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. Yeah. But like I said, man, look, hey, you guys there in Florida, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And not only is Captain Florida actually going after local municipalities that are violating people's rights and making them and instituting mandates on them that science and the numbers have already proven are stupid and idiotic. But you're also going after, and this relates back to the first story that we talked about, he's also going after tech companies that are suppressing the truth, that are making it so that we're not getting the full information in order to be able to make substantive decisions for ourselves. He actually signed a bill that would allow individuals to sue Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google for this level of censorship that they've been putting out there, not just in relation to COVID-19 and the vaccines, but also when it comes to political issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you violated my First Amendment, freedom of speech, to post certain items. You took away conservative views. You deleted them, but you left the liberal views up. Got something for you. Anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 worth of fines that you're going to have to pay me every time you decide it's okay for you to be Big Brother and talk about what kind of politics I'm allowed to mention.
Amen. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Captain Florida. We need to get a picture of him in a cape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We do.
We definitely got to get a picture.
And everything.
Exactly. It's Captain Florida.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right. So, hey, let's get into today's parting shot. And I think this parting shot really kind of hits on two different issues, right? Two different issues that we're talking about. It hits on both the wokeness that we are dealing with these days, but also on the whole COVID-19 thing. And so here it goes. Be smart, stay apart. Now, Mike, when you see this, what do you think?
Craig, I think my exact words were, not sure if social distancing or straight out racism.
It's like, okay, so in other words, you don't want black boys and white girls to hang out together.
Exactly.
Like, we dare not be together. I mean, what idiot? What? Come on now. If you're going to claim to be woke, one would think that you would be smarter than this.
I mean, this probably seemed like a good idea at first until you actually put it down on paper and you look at it and you're like, no, there's no way. We can't be doing this. We can't be doing this. This is where we are. Okay, let's do it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they probably didn't even think about it before they. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't think about it. They just some idiot who just really, once again, they didn't think, because there's no way anybody with half a brain, and once again, we're talking about people in government, so clearly, half a brain would probably be generous.
That's right.
Just screwed that. They screwed the pooch on that one.
That's double the requirement, by the way.
That is double the requirement. Well, hey, folks, guess what? It's about that time. It's about time for us to wrap up. But we want to remind you, we constantly have to remind you, Freedback Friday is coming up. And in Freedback Friday, we're going to be giving away some stuff. Mike, what are we going to be giving away?
We're going to be giving away an upper receiver from our good friends at Gorilla Machining. Gorilla Machining, that's them right over there. Gorilla Machining. We're going to be giving away Gorilla Machining. And then from our good friends at Grid Defense, an 80% paperweight, 80% piece of 7075, T7075 aluminum for you to use as you please legally in your state.
It is not a firearm. So we are not giving away firearms. So if any of the Facebook bots are reading this, no, we are not giving away firearms. So anyway, but here's how you do it. Now, here's how you do it. You got to watch us on Facebook Live, right? You got to watch us on Facebook, and you have to comment. And it's the best commenters that will win. So don't comment, you don't play, you don't win. The best way to improve your chances is to actually play.
That's it. You can't win if you don't play.
Exactly. So also want to remind you, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your folks about The Rundown. It is the place for 2A news and conservative views. I mean, if you want to talk about guns and politics, I think this is the spot.
Like, share, subscribe. This is the place to be.
Yes, sir, Bob. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Hump day.